One of the world's leading consultancies, McKinsey, has just come out with an Asia report to understand where India stands in the larger Asian picture. We're joined by Oliver Tonby, the Asia chairperson for McKinsey. Mr. Tonby, welcome. Thank you for joining us here at the World Economic Forum. I want to understand from you, where does McKinsey see India in the larger Asian scheme of things at this moment?
Thank you, Rahul. If you don't mind, just starting with the global picture first. So you're right, we've just come out with a report. It's called Corporate Asia, a Capital Paradox. What we've done is we've looked at the 5,000 largest companies globally. And to make it into that list, you need a revenue of more than $1.3 billion. These are the very largest companies in the world. What's happened over a 10-year period, so from 2005 to 7 to 2015 to 17, what we have seen is a huge growth in the number of Asian companies in that list, from 37 now to 43% of the world's 5,000 largest companies are based in Asia. We've also seen a couple of other things. Number one, a huge amount of new investment going into these companies, and actually 1 out of every $2 invested in the last 10 years has gone into Asia. Now, China's gotten a disproportionate amount. 1 out of $3 has gone into China, but it still means that the rest of Asia has gotten a disproportionate share of investment. What we've also seen is quite a significant reduction in the returns globally. That is because of a couple of things. Huge increase in investment, but we have not seen that proportional increase in profits. So for every dollar, back 10 years ago, you would have to invest 80 cents to make $1 revenue. Today you need to invest $1.1 to make $1 in revenue. So a big increase in the capital intensity. In the industry, we've also, in all industries actually, we've also seen a reduction in margins. So the sum of all of this is that the returns on invested capital has gone down, and globally we've seen that there used to be $720 odd billion in value creation. That has now gone down to a negative 34. So a reduction, significant reduction of value creation. And this is true across the world also, and in particular in Asia, which accounts for about half of that reduction. Now, if we then zoom in and start talking about what's happened where, we see energy and materials as a sector globally has actually had a very significant decrease. That's because we used to have a super cycle with very positive returns. Is now normalized. There's value destruction, frankly, globally, also in India in this sector. We have seen banking, in particular in Europe, take a big hit, so now value destroying. We've seen a lot of the investments going into China being value destroying. In fact, 80% of the almost $10 trillion invested in China in the last 10 years has been value-destroying sectors. So this is a little bit depressing. Now, to zoom in on your question around what about India in this picture, we've seen a little bit of the same picture. So now the total economic profit in India of those companies, and there are about 140 odd companies, Indian companies in the 5,000, they represent a value destruction of about $30 odd billion in the 2015 to 17 period. Now, if you double click on a few sectors, you will see that significant decrease in energy and materials, a significant decrease in the financial sector. You will see a couple of sectors kind of holding more or less steady, like capital goods, roughly flat. And you will see a positive increase in, for example, tech. So it's quite a nuanced picture, sector by sector.
It's interesting that you mention it. In a prominent Indian businessman recently came up with the phrase slowbalization. Earlier you had globalization, now you have slowbalization, and the McKinsey report seems to bear that out. I want to understand from you, what do you make of the economic news coming out of India, and how do the McKinsey clients worldwide see India as a prospect when it comes to upping their investments in the India story?
So, Rahul, if I'm allowed to have, and I think Scott Fitzgerald, the author, said back in the 30s, the mark of a great mind is to have two opposing thoughts at the same time. So if I'm allowed to have two opposing thoughts about India at the same time, on the one hand, you get a little bit concerned when you look at some of the issues affecting India. Not only India, globally. You look at environmental sustainability, you look at inequality, you look at the slowdown in growth, and in India it's been a little bit more rapid in the last couple of years than we expected. You look at some of the geopolitics, some of the tensions going on, and also tensions inside of countries, and you get a little bit worried, to be honest. And I think that is also true about India. The other thought at the same time is, I am, and many of our clients and many of the senior executives I talk to, they're also optimistic, especially in the long run. Optimistic about India because we still have 5-6% growth, right? We have a lot of people coming out of poverty into consuming class, more so in India than almost any other country, bar China perhaps. You have technology disruption that is helping. We can leapfrog in multiple sectors, and we see that happening in spades in India. You also see entrepreneurialism. So India now has more unicorns, as you know, there's more unicorns than Germany. And one of the countries in the world with most. Not as many as we would like, but still. And by the way, those unicorns are getting to unicorn status faster than anywhere else in the world. You look at the number of STEM engineers or STEM graduates. India has more than any other country in the world. So there are many, many positives in India. So, I hope at least in the medium to long term, I would call myself, and I hear, the buzz is realistic optimism, I would call it.
You come to India fairly frequently. The Indian government has, after getting re-elected in May 2019, rolled out a whole series of policy maneuvers. Most notably, they've reduced corporate taxes for companies that start manufacturing now. Is that leading to companies internationally view India in a more positive fashion, think about new investments in India, or not really?
So listen, yeah, I would say yes, but listen, absolutely. When you lower taxes and trying to create a more compelling environment for investments, absolutely. The but is, many companies I talk to, India it's large, it is complicated, it has its way of working. So many companies look at India and they're a little bit scared around how do I actually operate in India and how can I become successful. It's not only about investing there; it's actually making those returns and thriving.
So what more would you like to see of all the clients you speak to? What would you like to see the Indian government do? What changes would you like to see in the Indian policy ecosystem so as to be able to ensure that there's more rapid investment in India?
Now, listen, I think these are well-known topics, which is, we want to see the Indian government trying to attract more foreign companies. We want to see level playing fields where foreign companies can also take part. Now, we absolutely want, and I think even more importantly is, frankly, we want to see the Indian companies thriving as well, and perhaps even more Indian companies going outside of India. It's one of the great things about India. You see some of the many national champions that have ventured outside India. We look at the system integrators, some of the tech players in the past, some of the recent energy and minerals and mining companies that have gone out into India and absolutely made marks for themselves. And I think we would love to see even more of them also venturing outside of India.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us.